Good morning. It's Sunday the 28th, I believe, and it is 63 degrees outside. We got some rain. I hope the folks that I know in the Mississippi River Valley made it through okay. I know the storms were really bad over there. We were getting the aftermath as things kind of slowed down, but we got some much needed rain. So I am thinking this morning, and it really started last night, as many of my conversations have kind of been swirling in my head. I was thinking about the transition point, and I may have been wrongly calling this the Gödel point. I spent the morning, if you type in Gödel, OG Rose, he has a playlist where he's going over the Gödel point. And I think the way that I'm conceptualizing it maps, but I don't think it's the same thing he's talking about. But let's play with it a little bit. And Daniel, if you have any comments, like, yeah, I'm saying this like for real. I might be just totally way off base, but here goes. So in the morning shows on the TLC, really been led by Ethan. Kind of the start of with Chris doing the AA reflections. It's kind of grown this thing where there's been this where literature has kind of budded in the morning shows, and in particular what I find to be a very beautiful thing in Chad sharing his short story and then being read by Ethan and shared with the group, and then coming back to Chad, where Chad ends up doing an AI air quotes video, and that sparking a conversation amongst us, as well as what I did with it. So I found it pretty profound, and so I shared the video with my son, and he was repulsed by it. So this was back a few days ago when that happened. Me and him had a conversation about it at dinner last night, because I wanted to explore the reason behind his recoil from it, his like, ugh. And he has this purist idea about art, which I think is beautiful in of itself, and I tend to agree with it. The fact that it's been run through the AI machine just disintegrates it. Now, I don't totally agree with that, because I think that it was born, and I tried to push him back to that. But what this really kind of, well, then there's another thing. So Olson had this vision of prayer being in the imaginal space, and I believe in that conversation as well. I kind of had we were talking about like the transition period, and that's really what I want to talk about this morning, is this transition period, because I was in a conversation yesterday as well with I believe his name was Michael, but he was describing the ongoings about Occupy in the city he was in. I think he was in Chicago, and he was describing the actual structures of the different bodies that made up that movement and that campsite. And I noticed and envisioned that it was an inversion of the Israelite camps as they were running through not running, but moving through the wilderness. And it got me thinking about that transition point, and that's how I conceptualized the Gödel point. And it's super interesting then that Christ died on a cross, an intersection. And then that got me thinking also about what I said a few days ago about Christ saying, "On this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail." And then again, my sharing over the live stream yesterday and noticing how the struggles that I was going through and how it yielded peace for my team, and not my team, but the team I'm over. I need to be very careful about that. I try to be precise in that, to not lay claim to, because it's anyway. So, and for me being in the learning of being in that position and the imposter syndrome that I was feeling, and also in relation to what I'm doing now, being on the other side of the screen a bit, and how I feel this imposter syndrome because I'm playing in a space that I haven't been before. But what I came to last night that stuck like a splinter in my brain is that what we should be doing, or what I think the example of Christ being on the cross is that to be rightly placed in the world as a Christian, finding that intersection and building our church. Because through the poem or short story, an interesting thing that I saw was the transcendent becoming real. And that sparked a conversation as to whether or not it was more real or less real because it was on this side of it. And it got me thinking that we will one day judge angels and our place in the thing. Because I know this is going all over the place. I hope I can bring it all together. The world out here is brought into us. The eyes are the window to the soul. And the images we see out in the world get flipped. It's a transition point right in the eye, where then the image is hit on the retina. Which doesn't that make us the doorway to the transcendent? And as we pray in the imaginary and have a relationship with that transcendent, and then act that out into the world, we again become the doorway back into this three-dimensional space we call the world, full of matter. And the tension of finding those places, no matter where you are in life, because you can find them everywhere. And how these ossified structures that we call institutions and the patterns in the world that have become rigid and transhumanist, I believe would be the right term, that we're to try to find the places where we can, that transition point, and transform them and baptize them and bring them back to something closer to holy. I don't know. I hope that wasn't too all over the place. I hope you could follow. Because, man, that is terrifying. But in doing so, wouldn't that be the path to being a saint? Which I've heard a few people talk about wanting to be. Anyway, good morning. I hope your day is great. And for all of my friends who are participating in church today, may it be filled with a bounty, a cornucopia of bread and wine.